Welcome to the Triple S podcast where we discuss the stats, the standings, and the scoreboard. Today we'll go over the first few weeks of the NBA, including the biggest surprises in the league, which includes the Lakers, the Kings, and the Heat. First we gotta start with the dumpster fire that is the Los Angeles Lakers. They haven't put it together yet. They didn't put it together last season. The last good season they had over there was 2020, which they did win, but dubiously because it was in the bubble. And they have the GOAT in LeBron, and they haven't been able to put it together simply because they aren't putting the right pieces around him. Instead of surrounding him with shooters, they've just surrounded him with the opposite of a shooter, which is Russell Westbrook. He's been playing horribly. AD has been doing his part, but LeBron isn't a regular season player. He's somebody who tunes in for the playoffs. He's been injured. They've had injuries. They did bring in Pat Bev. Pat Bev is not a shooter, and just the team is chaotic. Beverly got pushed somebody over the other day, and LeBron seems to be tuned out until he can get to play with Bronny. This is a team that I don't think this is like a slump to start the season. They're just a bad team. I don't think they're going to do very well this season. On the other hand, a team that's been really surprising in a good way is just a little bit north of the Lakers. Up there in Sacramento, the Kings have been on a 7-game winning streak, fueled by their star, De'Aaron Fox. A couple first years in the league, people were wondering if that pick would really pan out, but he's really thrived out there. He's averaging 26 points per game right now, fueled by a ridiculous 41% shooting percentage beyond the arc. He's on an all-star level. I think they have to put him in the all-star if he continues to play like this. And the future looks really bright for the Kings if they can put some other all-stars around him, or simply if they can just get some more solid players besides Nikola Vucevic. So I think if they do that, they'll be in a really good spot. And even regardless, I think they'll be good. They just need to have some help around De'Aaron Fox. And finally, we have the Heat, who have been going through a slump right now. However, this is not the situations like the Lakers, because the Heat have been dealing with injuries, but they've been dealing with one injury specifically, and that is the knee injury that Jimmy Butler has. He'll be back in a couple days, so while they have lost these last 4 games, I'm not concerned because Kyle Lowry has been playing fine. Bam has been doing his thing, so I think they'll be fine going forward. However, they do need to deal because that Eastern Conference is pretty fire this year. And that sort of moves into my top 10. There are number 1 and 2 spots are both in the East, including my number 4. But the rest are in the West. So for starters, we have to go with Boston. Boston's been playing great. They have 2 stars over there in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think they'll be good for that first seed in the East. They're the favorites to win the championship, and I'm really confident in them. Number 2 is just right behind them. They have the same record now, is Milwaukee. Milwaukee, obviously, they have Giannis. They have Chris Middleton. And I think they'll be really good. I just don't know if they're better than Boston. I personally think they're not. They don't have that same star power. But we'll have to see as we get closer to the All-Star break. Number 3 I have, which is another surprise I didn't mention earlier, but it is another surprise, the LA Clippers. This is a team that seemed to be struggling last year. LA is where dreams go to die in the NBA. And so, but they've been working out with Paul George there, with Kawhi Leonard, and they started with a really good record. They're on a winning streak. Kawhi has been playing great once again. And so I think that we'll just have to keep going with that as they move forward. I don't know how consistent they are. I don't think that this is a team that can make a huge, deep playoff run, but we'll see. Number 4 is Cleveland. Right, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, those guys out there. Those guys have been playing real well. Number 5 is Denver. Number 6 is Phoenix, and number 7 is Utah. Denver, they're just fueled by their center, Nikola Jokic. They tried to put some pieces around him, but it hasn't really worked. Number 6 is Phoenix. I thought Phoenix would be a little bit better moving in here, but they're fine at that number 6 spot. And number 7 is Utah, a team that's supposedly going for a rebuild, but some of the young players have been playing really well, showing off. Obviously, I think this is not something that they can keep up through a full season, but it's fun to see them right now. Number 8 is Memphis. And I think that's number 8 spot, maybe like 3 or 4 in the West, is where they should be right now. They have a lot of talent, but they're still a growing team. They're still a very young team. Number 9 is, I mentioned them earlier, the Sacramento Kings. I think they're for real. They're obviously on a winning streak. They're a hot team right now. And number 10, finally, is New Orleans. New Orleans, obviously, with Zion over there, with C.J. McCollum, with Brandon Ingram, I think, still over there. They'll be doing really well. And I think they have the key pieces for a big run this season. I don't know how much they'll be able to do once they get deeper into the season where more attrition hits, especially because Zion is obviously very injury prone. But when he's healthy, he's great. So we'll have to see how that works out. And those are my top 10. It'll be very interesting to see how the NBA does as we move into the All-Star break. But that's all for me. I'll tune you in when the All-Star break rolls around, or a little bit before that. Obviously, we'll keep our eyes on the NBA season. But thank you for listening.